Battle Through the Heavens Season 5 Episode 121. As the head of the Zhangzhou F4, one of the four most handsome men, Grand Alchemist Yao Chen, left behind countless romantic debts. Even a female magnate of the Pill Tower bursts into laughter upon hearing old Yao's name. It seems this Grand Alchemist's romantic debts are no less than Xiao Yan's. Back to the story. The pill gathering that Xiao Yan has been looking forward to is finally being held in the North District of the inner city of Holy Pill City. However, by the time they arrived, the vast square was already filled with a sea of people. Helpless, Xiao Yan and the others ascended to the top of a building. Looking out, they saw many stone platforms suspended in midair above the square. According to Yi Zhong, these stone platforms are the final seats for the contestants. Due to the large number of participants in the pill gathering, there are 2 qualifying rounds. Only those who pass both rounds are eligible to participate in the pill gathering. The first round of selection is called the Illusionary realm. Xiao Yan followed Yi Zhong's pointed direction and saw a dark gray space at the edge of the square. According to Yi Zhong, the gray gas inside is produced from a type of magical beast called the Illusionary soul beast. It not only obscures one's vision, but also creates a certain degree of interference with soul perception. Once inside, one loses their sense of direction and becomes lost. If one does not exit the illusion within the allotted time, they lose their qualification to compete. Only by passing this can one officially enter the next stage, the Pill Jia. Xiao Yan was stunned upon hearing this. Curiosity flickered in Sun Air's eyes. This so-called Pill Jia is said to be a space created long ago by a Do Sheng expert from the Pill Tower. Although it gradually fell into disrepair due to some reasons later on, it contains heavenly and earthly treasures that countless alchemists dream of. Every alchemist qualified to enter will be given a list containing rare medicinal herbs. Only by collecting all the herbs on the list can one be considered to have passed. Xiao Yan nodded slightly. As expected of the Pill Tower. This way, it will prevent those who are just there to make up the numbers from participating, eliminating them. Those who remain after the selection are the true elites of this pill gathering. While Xiao Yan and Sun Air were talking, the space above the stone platform distorted slightly, and a dozen figures slowly appeared. After glancing over them, Xiao Yan's gaze settled on the 3 figures in the center. One of them was none other than Xian Kongzi, one of the 3 grand elders whom Xiao Yan had met before. Beside him were a dark-skinned old man and a beautiful woman in a cheongsam. Although it was Xiao Yan's first time seeing the latter two, judging from their positions alongside Xian Kongzi, it was clear that they were the other 2 grand elders of the Pill Tower. As soon as the 3 appeared, the entire area became much quieter. Then, Xian Kongzi, with his white hair, slowly stepped forward. Xiao Yan listened quietly to Xian Kongzi's introduction of the pill gathering. He found that it was indeed largely the same as what Yi Zhong had said. These rules are clearly the standard format for every pill gathering. The champion of this gathering will not only be nominated as a candidate for Grand Elder, but also receive an ancient soul cultivation technique. It is said that with this technique, reaching the 8th grade, or even 9th grade alchemist level, will be just around the corner. As soon as Xian Kongzi finished speaking, a thunderous roar erupted from the square. The 8th and 9th grades, these almost legendary levels, were worlds apart from them. But if they obtained that ancient soul cultivation technique, that distance would be infinitely reduced. Even Xiao Yan couldn't resist such a temptation. So after Xian Kongzi finished speaking, a burning passion flashed in his eyes. He had to strive for the championship no matter what. He might not care about the title of Grand Elder candidate, but he couldn't ignore the soul cultivation technique. He could disregard the Grand Elder candidate status, but he couldn't ignore the soul cultivation method. The soul cultivation technique was something he couldn't easily dismiss. He knew clearly that to become a 9th grade alchemist, a soul cultivation technique was indispensable. So no matter what, he had to give it his all this time. At the same time, Xian Kongzi pointed towards the gray space at the edge of the square and announced, "All participants above rank 5, enter the first stage, Soul Illusionary realm." As soon as his voice fell, the crowd in the square surged towards it like a tidal wave. Watching the figures continuously flashing into the distorted space, Xiao Yan, with the cheers of Xiao Yixian and others, also flashed inside. Meanwhile, Xian Kongzi in the stands nodded slightly upon seeing the scene. He surprisingly discovered that, attracted by the allure of the 3,000 burning flames, some veterans were among them. However, the beautiful woman beside him remarked that the younger generation nowadays were not much weaker than them. Even if those veterans participated, they would probably end up embarrassed. The younger generation these days indeed has some remarkable individuals. How far can that Xiao Yan go? She wondered. Hearing this, the dark-skinned old man beside her looked thoughtful. Xian Kongzi then looked at the beautiful woman beside him. Yao Chen's disciple, Xian Kongzi stated. Hearing these words, the beautiful woman was slightly startled. She had been in seclusion for many years and rarely appeared unless it was for important matters like sealing the 3,000 burning flames. Although she had been in seclusion and ignorant of worldly affairs, when she heard the name Yao Chen, an inexplicable glint flickered in her eyes. According to Xiao Yan, Yao Chen had fallen into the hands of the Hall of Souls. After the pill gathering, if possible, perhaps she could help that old fellow. After all, he had done the pill tower a great favor in the past. The beautiful woman nodded slightly. Her usually calm composure was greatly disturbed at this moment. But after a moment, her expression returned to normal. It's his own fault for messing around. Knowing he was being targeted by the Hall of Souls, he still dared to wander around. He deserves this. Oh, you say that so easily, but everyone knows you're the one who's most worried about him. All these years, you've secretly sent people to inquire about Yao Chen's whereabouts. We both know that. Let him die, she retorted, but these words sounded weak to Xian Kongzi and the other elder. They understood her stubborn nature very well and could only shake their heads helplessly. After calming down, the beautiful woman looked at Xian Kongzi and said that after the pill gathering, she would go and see Xiao Yan. After all, he was that old fellow's disciple. Meanwhile, Xiao Yan, having just entered the illusionary realm, frowned. The gray gas not only suppressed the soul, but there were also countless maze-like distorted spaces. If he rushed in recklessly, he would definitely lose his way and even become trapped. Fortunately, with the strength of his current soul, although suppressed, it was enough to cope with this so-called illusionary realm. As his soul power quietly spread, Xiao Yan placed his hands behind his back and calmly walked forward along the path his soul power had probed. He walked forward slowly. After walking for about an hour like this, Xiao Yan suddenly froze. Not far ahead, an elderly figure was slowly walking towards him. When Xiao Yan saw this person's face, his heart skipped a beat. "Teacher," he exclaimed. "Xiao Yan," the smiling old man responded, his gaze fixed on the old man before him. This person was none other than Yao Chen, who should have been imprisoned by the Hall of Souls. In the Pill Realm, Xiao Yan encounters Chen Xian, the young sect master of the Xianming sect, once again. Unexpectedly, Chen Xian continuously provokes Xiao Yan's group, even on the verge of life and death. Arriving in the Pill Realm, Xiao Yan begins seizing rare medicinal herbs under the guise of helping those in need. To obtain the 3,000 burning flames and enhance his own strength, Xiao Yan participates in the pill gathering held by the Pill Tower in Holy Pill City's North District. Unexpectedly, in the illusionary realm stage of the pre-selection trials, Xiao Yan encounters Yao Chen, who should be imprisoned by the Hall of Souls. Looking at that familiar, benevolent face, Xiao Yan takes a step forward, but a sense of danger suddenly arises in his heart, causing him to stop immediately. It's an illusion. Deep within this illusionary realm stage, illusions can be created based on one's thoughts. This illusionary realm stage is truly dangerous. Xiao Yan frowns as he stares at the elderly figure. After a long while, he sighs softly and shatters the illusory figure of Yao Chen. As the figure dissipates, the surrounding area reveals strange, swirling black spatial folds. Clearly, if one were to fall into them, they would surely be lost. Continuing his journey, Xiao Yan encounters Sun Er, Kai Lin, Xiao Zhan, Yun Yun, and other figures deeply etched in his memory. However, having learned his lesson, Xiao Yan only glances at them with a hint of longing before resolutely turning away. After walking for nearly half an hour, a massive, distorted black hole appears before him. This is clearly the second stage, the spatial passage to the Pill Jia. At this moment, in an open space before the spatial passage, many figures have already gathered. These are the contestants who have passed the illusionary realm stage first. Xiao Yan also spots two familiar figures, Chao Eng, known as the Chao family's demonic woman, and Song Qing, her sycophantic follower. Chao Eng is slightly taken aback by Xiao Yan's sudden appearance, a seductive smile appearing on her lips. Song Qing, however, frowns subtly. After smiling faintly at the two from a distance, Xiao Yan finds an empty spot and sits down cross-legged. He doesn't know them well and doesn't want to get involved with them too much. If they were to cooperate, there's no telling if he'd be betrayed in the end. After years of experience, Xiao Yan has seen this kind of thing happen many times. Naturally, he needs to be extra cautious. Seeing Xiao Yan's behavior, Song Qing breathes a sigh of relief. But Xiao Ying can't help but frown slightly. This guy has humiliated her several times, and even the best temperament would be angered. Xiao Ying feels indignant, thinking, "You're pretending to be so aloof. Let's see how you'll manage alone when you enter the Pilgia." Meanwhile, after sitting down cross-legged, Xiao Yan looks towards the spatial passage. There, an old man in ordinary clothes is sitting cross-legged on a giant turtle. To Xiao Yan's surprise, he can't see through the old man's true strength. Judging from the badge on his chest, the old man is clearly from the Pill Tower. As Xiao Yan observes, the meditating old man finally opens his eyes slowly and explains the rules for entering the second stage, the Pilgia. He says that everyone entering can receive a mission list from him, as well as a map of the Pilgia and a spatial stone. Only after collecting all the herbs on the list and following the map to the exit of the Pilgia can one be considered to have passed the stage. The spatial stone is for life-saving purposes. If one encounters a life-threatening situation, they can crush the spatial stone and be automatically transported out of the Pilgia. However, that also means losing the qualification to continue competing. Everyone nods slightly. Those who have reached this point so quickly are not simple. They naturally understand that the old man before them is not an ordinary person. The old man then reminds everyone to be careful in the Pilgia because it is not suitable for human habitation. There are many magical beasts within, and their strength is quite formidable. Without further ado, those who are mentally prepared can come forward and collect their items. If you want to withdraw now, there's still time, the old man states, glancing around. But no one withdraws. Everyone present has some skills, how could they be scared off by his words? Then, everyone walks up to the old man one after another and receives their items. They then gradually disappear into the spatial passage. Xiao Yan doesn't rush in but observes coldly. Based on the old man's words, the Pilgia is clearly not a safe place. In this kind of place, it's better to let those in front take the lead. After nearly 100 people have entered the spatial passage, Xiao Ying and Song Qing slowly get up and walk into the passage. As they enter, the demonic woman turns her head and glares fiercely at Xiao Yan, leaving him feeling quite helpless. Not long after the two enter, just as Xiao Yan is about to move, the space behind him ripples. A young figure slowly emerges. Xiao Yan turns his head to look, a hint of meaning flashing in his eyes. This person was Chen Xian, the one who had clashed with him at the alchemist trade fair and later sold information about Xiao Yan to Elder Mugu. As he passed by Xiao Yan, Chen Xian mocked him, "Xiao Yan, right? You're quite tenacious. Even that person's attack didn't take your life." Looking at the effeminate Chen Xian, a meaningful smile appeared on Xiao Yan's lips. "Young sect master Chen Xian," he said, "while you're in the Pilgia, you better hide well. Otherwise, the Xianming sect might lose its heir." Hearing this, Chen Xian flew into a rage. A moment later, he responded slowly, "I'll return those words to you. Don't let me run into you in the Pilgia. Otherwise, I'll show you what a fate worse than death truly is." After uttering his harsh words, Chen Xian stepped into the spatial passage. Watching Chen Xian's disappearing figure, a chilling glint flashed in Xiao Yan's eyes. "I hope you don't die at the hands of others. That would make things too boring." Next, Xiao Yan received the items from the turtle-riding old man and strode into the spatial passage. Before Xiao Yan appeared a desolate plain covered in yellow earth. However, he didn't rush down immediately but hovered in the sky. It's best to be cautious in such an unknown place. After pondering for a moment, Xiao Yan took out the list given by the old man. After glancing at it, he frowned. Dragon core, blood rouge, demonic blood shower, pure spirit immortal grass. After reading the names of these heavenly and earthly treasures, Xiao Yan felt a headache coming on. These heavenly and earthly treasures are all quite rare. As an alchemist, almost everyone knows how valuable these things are. After a wry smile, Xiao Yan took out the map. 3 locations on the map were circled in red. Could these be the locations of those 3 herbs? Xiao Yan pondered, lost in thought. If that's the case, things will be much easier. As Xiao Yan was thinking, the space in front of him distorted again. Then, over a dozen figures leaped out from the sky almost simultaneously. However, as soon as they landed, a giant snake suddenly emerged from the ground and lunged at an alchemist's head. This sudden change startled the alchemist, but he didn't panic. He casually unleashed a surge of powerful Do Qi, slaying the giant snake on the spot. However, before he could relax, a metal rod pierced through his chest. Then, as a white light surged from his palm, he vanished into thin air. It seems he crushed the spatial stone to save himself. This sudden turn of events shocked many of those present. They looked towards the attacker. The man had a brutish face and wore alchemist robes. On his shoulder, he carried a long metal rod. He ignored the wary gazes around him and instantly arrived at the spot where the giant snake appeared. In the pit, a dark yellow root was exposed. Seeing this, exclamations rang out from the surroundings. Earthly golden essence. Xiao Yan's eyes also flashed with surprise. This earthly golden essence is a rare medicinal herb formed by the condensation of Earth's power. If one's energy goes berserk during cultivation, pills refined from it can have a very good suppressing effect. However, Xiao Yan's gaze was fixed on the spot where the snake emerged, lost in thought. Looking at the size of the earthly golden essence, a look of greed flashed in the large man's eyes. He grabbed it and pulled it out forcefully. After glancing at the people around him, his expression turned cold. "Get lost if you don't want to die," he threatened. Hearing this cold threat, the other alchemists' expressions changed slightly. But seeing the large man's fierce look, they didn't dare to say anything. After hesitating for a moment, they chose to leave. Although earthly golden essence is precious, it's not worth losing their qualification for it. Watching the retreating figures, the disdain on the large man's face deepened. He is at the peak of Donghua, but at least two of those people are only slightly weaker than him. But they lack his ferocity and boldness. So these cowards can only leave empty-handed. However, just as he was about to put the earthly golden essence into his ring, a powerful force snatched it away. The joy on the large man's face vanished instantly, because a young figure was now standing before him. Xiao Yan glanced indifferently at the large man and said, "Scram." There was no room for negotiation in Xiao Yan's words. Judging from the large man's earlier actions, he is clearly not a good person. And Xiao Yan never shows mercy to evil people. Although the large man was extremely unwilling, when he saw that Xiao Yan was a Dozong expert, he didn't dare to say anything. He knows that if he can rob others, others can rob him too. Showing mercy in the pill Jie would probably leave him stripped bare. So after glaring fiercely at Xiao Yan, he left in a fit of rage. Watching his disappearing figure, Xiao Yan put the earthly golden essence into his ring but didn't leave immediately. Instead, he looked at the deep pit with anticipation. Although 1,000-year earthly golden essence is precious, it's not enough to impress Xiao Yan too much. What he's truly interested in is what lies deeper within. Please give us a like and subscribe, fellow Taoists. Let's continue our chat in the next episode.